I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought and died just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 34, Episode 24 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
My name is Artem.
And I'm Kadave.
In today's episode, Eric from Canada is getting back into the TTRPG hobby. Mike from New York shares a success story. And from the archive 2017, Juho from Finland wants to talk about resolution mechanics. If you'd like to contribute a topic or story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com, or you can post in the mailbag channel of our Discord. We've had some great contributions coming in this week, especially since last week when we invited you to share the tea on your current campaign. We'd like to know about your characters. We'd like to know about the drama and sneakiness with the other players. Just let us know what's happening. It's very exciting. And oh man, we got a vampire one. It's good. It's not this week, but stay tuned. It's going to be good.
I like it juicy.
Yeah. Oh, me too. All right. Announcements. We're coming to the end of season 34. We will end the season in the next 2 weeks. And then, as always, we're going to take a 2-week break and start up with our new season, season 35. Can't believe it's season 35. Mid-January. Please, heads up, we are switching the night and time of the show. We are going to be moving the show live to Saturday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we're hoping that we can build up some of the hangout time that was sort of lost during the pandemic, and as all of us have gotten older with more commitments and kids and stuff. So if people come to the show and are on the show at 5 and we're done by 6:30, 7, then we can all hang out. And so yeah, it's for our enjoyment, not for yours. Ha ha ha. Anyway.
Yes. As soon as we sign off, know that we'll be having fun.
Yes. And
You can't stop us.
Nope. And our next game days is happening January 11th. I'm going to run something. I haven't decided what yet, though. So I'm very excited to do that. There's already a bunch of games already posted, too. So the new year, new you, or not new you, maybe new year, new system. Go try something out, playing or running. And yeah, it'll be fun. And to do that, you can join the Discord at happyjacks.org/Discord. And it's a free-to-play, fun, just community thing. And there's a bunch of weird games, as always. All right, Indie Designer of the Month. Our Indie Designer is Megan Dossajaffe, they, and they are part of Nerdy City Games. And you can find their work by searching Nerdy City on DriveThruRPG or looking for Nerdy City on Instagram. This week, we are talking about Tempus Omni. From dinosaurs to spaceships, from Precambrian to Pax Galactica. I hope I said this right. The full span of time and space is the domain of the migrators, men and women plucked from the long history of humankind to repair and align the time stream. Lost and far from home, the migrators endlessly follow sequences, strange missions to access the aeons and maintain the base nature of time and reality itself. So Tempus Omni is an innovative new game that puts all the history in the player's hands. Simple, intuitive, and fun, Tempus Omni is the perfect RPG for newcomers and experienced players alike. And you can find it for $4.99 as a PDF on DriveThruRPG.
Far out.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What a price.
What a deal.
Yeah.
For the entirety of human history?
Right?
It reminds me of Travelers, which I loved that show so much. So good.
Yeah.
And I almost wrote a Travelers RPG, but then I was distracted by other things. But I still want to, but you never know. All right. I've talked a whole lot. Mailbag number 1. Someone else should read this very long email. Ready, go.
You want this one, or you want me to take it?
I'm happy to take it if you'd like.
6-1 to me.
Sweet. Okay, let's do it. Okay, here we go. Mailbag number one, everybody. Dear Happy Jacks, this past year I decided to get back to the RPG hobby after more than 35 years away from it. RPGs were something that brought me so much joy when I was younger. I picked up a game and headed to YouTube to watch some actual plays to help me learn the rules. I discovered Happy Jack's actual play videos and was very impressed with the quality of both the videos and how the games are played out. I also started to see just how much the RPG hobby had grown and expanded during my absence. The RPG hobby has grown so much and diversified in so many interesting ways while I was away. There seems to be a game that suits nearly any genre or setting. Internet distribution channels mean that even niche games can find their market. There's a lot to catch up on. I
And
decided
how?
and I decided to join the HJ Discord server to connect with with other RPG fans and find the joy of gaming I remembered from my younger days. I'm pleased to say that in the short time I have been involved with your community, I have been treated to nothing but courteous and respectful conversations. Something I appreciate because online communities can be pretty rough sometimes. Your community has been very generous in helping me learn about many of the new games and game design philosophies out there. Lots of new terms and new ideas to explore. Unfortunately, I found that there's much more to learn in the modern RPG space than that I didn't anticipate. Back in the 1970s and 80s, the RPG hobby was much smaller than it is today. With so much growth and diversity in the hobby, the various kinds of RPG games have developed their own communities. What I didn't anticipate, perhaps naively, is that the hobby might become fragmented as so many of the other communities in the social media world have over the past 10 years or so. As I read and talk with others about the hobby, I'm discovering that some unpleasant trends happened over the years. I've stumbled upon some real horror stories of toxic gaming groups and horrible GMs who did things we would never have done in our gaming groups back in the day, in the quotations. There's clearly a history that created divisions. I can't really know what happened, but I'm re entering a hobby that has been affected by it, and I will have to deal with that. So, here is my problem. I have a love for a kind of RPG that may no longer exist. And if it does, it seems to have a bad reputation attached to it. My previous gaming experiences and my preferences for style of play seem to fall into what other people call OSR or trad RPGs. I know from my experiences years ago that you can get a bad GM who likes to play God and spoil the fun for everyone. But some of the stories I've discovered online are truly deplorable. Recent conversations on the Happy Jacks Discord about my experiences with RPGs, while cordial and respectful, seem to have carried an undertone of caution. That is understandable considering what I've learned of the quote unquote bad actors among the various factions in the RPG world. But they've also chilled my desire to participate in the conversations on the Happy Jacks Discord. There seems to be very little conversation about the more traditional GM player type of game that I used to enjoy. I joined the HJ community because I hope to find like-minded people who enjoyed many of the same things I did. If they are out there on the HJ server, perhaps like me, they choose to remain silent. Or maybe the world has just moved on. Let me end with this. You should be very proud of the community you have built here. The people in your community are pleasant, courteous, and kind in their interactions with others. They are also very generous in sharing what they know about RPG hobby, and I have learned a lot from them. It seems strange that I should feel so well treated by the community and yet still feel like an outsider because I prefer a style of gaming that seems mostly absent from the conversation. I want to thank you for building and maintaining such a pleasant online community, so willing to help an old timer like me as I try to find my joy in RPGs again. I'll keep reading and keep learning, and maybe I will even get in one or two of these new games soon. Thanks for everything you all do at Happy Jacks. Eric from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada.
Aw. Well, first off, thank you for jumping in. It can be scary to join a new server or Discord or community at all. And I'm glad you've had very positive experiences, even if it's not necessarily like the flavor of game that you were kind of looking for. Um, yeah, I mean, I have a lot to say, but I feel like Artem, as someone who's like joined the community more recently, like I don't know, and Dave, as someone who's been around for a long time,
Well, yeah, it's interesting.
Ancient.
Yeah, we've got like the both
Crawled from my
sides.
grave.
Since the dawn of time, Dave has existed on the Happy Jacks Discord. Yeah, well, I am a newcomer to Happy Jacks, and I am so enthralled by the wonderful community here, and how generous and welcoming everyone has been. Well, I will say the journey, I think, any online community is a little intimidating. I mean, I think it's still a kind of, I mean, for me, it's a little overwhelming because there's just so many discussion topics going on all the time. And also, I jumped back into the gaming hobby back in just 2019. You know, I just resurfaced after having like a long career in theater and in the service industry and educational industry. Just like I have a lot of different careers that have been going on creatively and stuff. And then I was just like, I want to dip back into this hobby. So to jump back in 2019, discover like, whoa, there are so many ways that people play games. And then by the time I joined Happy Jacks, you know, it's even more, right? And so it can be very, I think it can be intimidating just in terms of there's a plethora of games, but also I think there's a plethora of conversation that have to do with the new games, the new styles of play. And so for someone who wants to talk about, I equate it to like if you want to have a topic about something that was really exciting to you, it might just be that like it might feel like you're a few years behind because people might have already talked about this. But it's not that your conversation isn't welcome. I think this is the way that like you learn new ways of gaming and new ways to like engage with the hobby. Um, I think for me, it's been really kind of exciting to have this community to kind of develop on essentially what I like to do, which is get a group of people together and enjoy some kind of activity together where we all get to, for example, in terms of gaming, we all get to sort of disappear from our regular lives and enjoy a different experience together, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like in some ways there's no right or wrong, right? If you usually love to do D&D or DCC or anything like very old school, you could still do that, adding a lot of new style sensibilities. So I think all of these conversations, even though you might feel like you're left out of them, stick around, you know, keep leaning in because it's fun to have like such a waterfall and deluge of ideas. But just because you're not immediately feeling like these are connecting to you doesn't mean that it isn't for you,
Yeah.
you know?
When we reorganized the Discord server, I guess a couple years ago now, we like the mods kind of discussed it back and forth. Like, are we going to have one channel for TTRPGs, or are we going to break it up and have separate ones for, you know, D&D, PBTA? Like, are we going to try and like segment it out for types or things like that? We ended up deciding because there are a lot of TTRPG discords. I'm on so many of them, and sometimes having too many different places for conversation to happen can actually kill the conversation and the community feel of a server. So we decided, at least for that first big change, that we were going to just have one place where all, I mean, like, there's like a design one and stuff like that. But for just like general TTRPG talk, there's like one channel for that. So we decided to kind of sandwich it all in one place. So that does mean conversation moves very quickly. And it does mean that there is kind of a bias towards the people who are on the server the most and what games they play. I do know that there are a lot of people on the Happy Jack server who still do a lot of more traditional games. There's a lot of Traveler fans, lots of like Vampire and World of Darkness fans there, things like that. So I think just because you're not seeing conversations about them, or because certain people who prefer another type of game are the ones talking the most, I always want to caution about thinking that that's what everyone on the server thinks. There's like 700 people on the server, like more than that now. I forget how many, but there's over 700 people. Like, there's like 20 people who are the most active, and we love them so much. But they tend to be people who, you know, they have their favorites, and the vibe of the server tends to kind of seem like it favors that type of game just because they're the ones talking the most. But yeah, and like, we've played so many different games on Happy Jacks as APs and so many things over the years. I've had a lot of people come in and comment that we're one of the only like kind of communities on Discord that is good with both. Like there are some people who are nervous about it. Like you said, there are bad stereotypes with some of the, and people have had bad experiences with some of the more traditional games. I don't always necessarily think it's because of the games. It was because the play culture at the time that those games were prevalent, I think, was more to blame than the actual games themselves. But some people do have like stress and like anxiety about that because those things are connected in their mind. But we do have James, our mod right now in the chat, is like he's an OSR traveler, fan, big time there. OSR, by the way, stands for old school role playing. Some people in the chat were asking what OSR stood for. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Well, first off, Eric, I'm jealous because Victoria, British Columbia is one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yes.
So cheers to living in an awesome area. Um, my thing is, I've had good and bad games through all of the iterations of RPGs that I've been involved in, right? I've had terrible AD&D second edition games. I wasn't around with the white box. I'm not quite that old. but but I started really at the AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons era. And I've had good games of that. I've had terrible games of that. I like the general direction that games have gone, but I also sometimes long for a more rules engaged game than a lot of the newest shiny stuff, right? The how a lot of gaming has gone in the direction of the story game, which I also absolutely adore playing through with my friends. But there are times that I'm like, I want to have a cool map and I want to know all the rules about how my guy can interact tactically with this stuff. So I get you, man. I guess that's what I'm saying. I understand that like there is totally the desire to play some old school style games.
Mm-hmm.
Shockingly, right now I'm playing 2 D&D games. Right? Like it's weird
Wait,
for
wait,
me.
wait,
I
wait.
haven't played
Dave, who's GMing one of those games?
Bill, famously here. He's on the Mouse Ritter show right now.
Who's doing the other one?
Stu
There
is
you go.
running the other one. Yes.
Stu.
He's alive. I swear. But he yeah, and here's the thing. I kind of self-opted out of a lot of fantasy RPGs because I spent so many years playing fantasy RPGs that I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm a little bit done with just the sort of generic fantasy adventure, right? But I think that's partly because I didn't have a 35-year gap outside the game world, right? I've been playing consistently pretty much my entire life from childhood. And so without having that skip in time, I've kind of followed along with the trends. And then when we started to diversify into a lot more types of games, I have greatly enjoyed the fact that now there's a lot more choice for sci-fi games and there's a lot more choice for pulpy adventure stuff. Like, I'm still a huge Savage Worlds fan. Like I like the feel of those games that you get. And now with all of the Powered by the Apocalypse stuff, and we went through that dark time with Fate, but that's my personal opinion. uh, but but now I know that I'm going to make people mad, but that's awesome.
That's good.
Uh,
Maybe they'll
but
write in.
I have liked things about almost all the game systems over time, and I like seeing how things have built on each other to kind of lead us here. So
Yeah.
I understand you feel like Marty McFly, you just stepped out of the DeLorean in the future and you're like, what is happening? Uh, you know, and trying to figure out how to make your hoverboard work over the water. I get it, man, but like we've kind of like things have evolved.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the old things are bad. It just means that we have different stuff now.
Yeah.
So find a group and play your game and have an awesome time, man. Like if you signed up to run an OSR style game on one of the game days, and I'm actually free to be there, which I think I am the next one finally, I'll sign up and play. Like,
Yeah.
that's great, man.
I love me some
Uh,
Traveler. Like I still love
yeah,
Traveler and Call
absolutely.
of Cthulhu. Like I've actually I think because I've been doing so much PBTA writing Starscape, like I have like this desire to like for something super crunchy right now.
Hmm.
And it's just like, yeah, it goes in waves. It's like,
Mm.
okay,
Yeah,
today I want, this type of food, and then tomorrow I want this type of food. Yeah.
yeah. If we end up in Demolition Man universe and the only choice of restaurant is Taco Bell, we're all gonna get annoyed.
Yeah. Don't want that.
like,
Yeah. There's
like
also
it might be
yeah.
fun once in a while, but that's not. You don't want to have every meal out there, man.
No. I also there's a whole bunch of people creating new stuff for these systems. Like Gemroom Games are good friends of the show. They were an indie designer of the month last year, one of our first ones. They do OSR style games.
Mm.
They did the Nine Lives to Valhalla and stuff like that. There's also a whole bunch of new systems coming out that have more crunch and things like that. The Wild Sea is a great from MythWorks is really great and pretty crunchy. Like there's a lot of mechanics for different ships and things like that all over it. Like it's a post-apocalyptic like verdant punk like system, and there's tons of different really cool mechanics for it. So even a lot of the new stuff that's coming out, I feel like we kind of had this like kind of swing away from mechanics to much more story driven, and now I feel like a lot of people are kind of swinging back and creating things that are more crunchy, and people are still creating stuff that are even less crunchy. Some of the belonging outside belonging games and stuff, it's like here's a token, there's no dice involved, like, so I feel like we like
Gaze upon the token and
yes.
picture what you want to occur.
So there's new stuff in all those flavors. So it's just gonna take you a little while to, like Dave said, Marty McFly your way into like don't walk in front of the hoverboards or whatever, and figure out where you wanna where you want end up landing. And you're gonna try
Yeah.
some stuff. You might hate it, and that's fine. And you might swing back and you might run Traveler, and we would love that. And maybe you're gonna try something else. You know, uh, there's just a ton of different games out there being made all the time by tons of different companies. Some of them are very crunchy, some of them aren't, and it's just about tasting them all.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I really love that analogy, Marty McFly. I mean, it could feel intimidating getting into new things just because if something might pique your interest and you're like, it's like if you're just getting into Game of Thrones now, if you're like, hey, have you heard of this thing called Game of Thrones? And somebody's like, they has like a tattoo across their back that's like the Lannister sigil, and it says Lannisters always pay their debts. You're like, oh, you're super in, like you're way ahead of me in your fandom. Like it could be intimidating, but like if you like it, keep getting into it. It's gonna really pay off. I think to that extent, I think the things you like, what I really enjoyed about the Happy Jacks Discord is like people are just excited about games. Like to what Kimmy you were saying before, like, it's not just one type or another. Like people just like all games, and they just like to game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I think if you enter with excitement, I think you're gonna see that excitement, like reciprocated very much. So like the more joyful you are about what you're into, the more people are gonna be like, yeah, for sure, let's do the trad. If you're saying it's super fun, I'd love to hear all your fun, feelings about trad. Like we did a while ago on Happy Jacks. There was I forget what it was for, but a bunch of people kept it going for 30 days, but there was like 30 days of the TTRPG month or something like that.
Oh
And
yeah,
it was like
yeah.
every day you like share a different thing.
Yeah.
And it was kind of fun to see how frequently people were calling out basically things that great experiences that they had with like old school essentials or savage worlds, or like like things that are a little bit crunchier, and a lot of people brought up Traveler, and a lot of people brought up like um Shadowrun and stuff. Like people mentioned things that were definitely been around for way longer than Belonging Outside Belonging. So it's kind of nice to see that, oh, there's actually quite the range. And when we start, if you for 30 days, if you spend thinking about different experiences you had with different games, suddenly you find out that you've had experiences wonderful across a whole range of decades of games. So yeah, I think there's definitely there are definitely fans of the games that you're into, Eric. On this Discord, you'll find.
Absolutely. Well, and there's also been kind of a trend lately of new publishers getting the rights to old like dead and gone games and re-releasing them. Like I know like the D6 West End system is being released like pretty soon. The the old Marvel game that was so great like was recently re-released. I think they took Marvel off of it because Marvel has its own RPG now. It's a little bit of a hot mess. But I think the one that they actually used originally for Marvel role playing, Marvel Cinematic role play, I don't remember what it's called. The original one is being re-released like as or it was re-released more as a superhero without specifically Captain America on the front sort of game. So there's a lot of those old games now that are still in existence that you can find. They just have a little different name or a different cover or a different publisher name on them now. So yeah, I'm very excited about the D6 West End system. So
Man, I played a lot of the old Star Wars game in D6
I
West End.
love that game. It was so good. It's still to this day it might be my favorite like actual Star Wars RPG. Like I've liked bits of other ones, but I feel like that one was the one that just captured it kind of the best. And it felt the most even. Like no matter what kind of character you picked, it felt like you all had a part to play in it. Where sometimes if it's like for especially the Fantasy Flight ones, if it takes really long time to build a Jedi, but if someone fucking builds a Jedi, like a lot of you are just gonna like sit back and be like, well, let's go watch so and so do this thing because they are so powerful. Wow.
So cool.
So, but if you like talent trees, you probably love that system a lot. Or weird dice. I have so much of that weird dice. So much of that weird dice.
A lot of those old games are still on my list too. Is like I feel like I'm always excited to when quote unquote people who are like some of the older games actually bust them out. I'm like, oh, amazing! What an opportunity to like I'd love to play Shadowrun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if somebody wants to run Shadowrun, please invite me. I have too many D6s to that are just being lonely and need to be tossed around.
Jason could, you could talk Jason into that for sure.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Jason's to pick about that. Yeah.
I've also been challenged to bring the Dallas RPG back, probably at the upcoming con.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Do that. Yep. February con. You know what I learned about that is that was only the second ever IP RPG, like an RPG in an existing IP. It was only the second one ever made. So
I thought it was the first, actually.
was it the first? I thought it was the second.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was the first. Okay, well, then the person on Blue Sky the other day was uninformed, but it was very early on, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean it came out just 3 years after Dungeons and Dragons, like in 1980. Here's a role-playing game that has a shocking amount of modern style mechanics.
It does.
For 1980, like it has a lot of weird, not just roll dice, consult tables kind of gaming to it. That it's a lot of fun. I mean, horribly misogynistic and horribly dated to the 1980s and a Dallas soap opera in general, but like. And it's so weird that who was clamoring for a Dallas soap opera RPG? Like, when it was teenagers that were just finding D&D in the first place, and then suddenly now like this entirely based on an adult primetime soap opera.
I want to talk to those people. I want to like the first people who are like, yes, I was there when Dallas dropped, and
totally. I would love to talk to somebody that jumped into it.
I wonder what the sales numbers were. Like, I'm super, super curious. I know the best-selling TTRPG of all time was the Pokemon one. Like, the old Pokemon one that you actually can't buy anymore. I went to a whole, at Gamma Expo last year, there was, like, a whole seminar on, like, selling RPGs and marketing. And they're like, it was like Pokemon Go. It was like this moment of just, like it hit and kids were just in the right headspace for it. And they'd talk to a bunch of like child psychologists about how to make it really addictive for kids because I'm trying to get myself a copy of it so I can see what they did and I can't get one yet. but like they planned it so well for kids, and it just like skyrocketed. It was amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Which is it's the
yeah.
Pokemon Go RPG. Sorry, not to belabor this, but no.
No, long before Pokemon Go.
Okay.
It's just the Pokemon RPG. Like I've seen it a couple times on like eBay and stuff like that. But I have not. I haven't like seen it in person yet. And when I saw it on eBay, it was either like I didn't think it would have all the parts, or so
Do you know what? I think I've come across an actual play where people play the Pokemon RPG. We're like,
yeah. There's a newer Pokemon RPG which is not the same one. They've licensed it out, and there's also like not the obviously the card game, but like there's another card based game that's not the collectible card game that's like Magic where they fight each other, and I take them away from my students all the time. Although I have a bunch of those from stealing them from my students. Not stealing, confiscating when they have them out and they're fighting about it. I get to take them away. Yeah, it's just interesting to think about like kind of the history of how like these weird games that hit for a while and then disappeared, and I don't know.
right.
It's such, I mean,
Right. I mean, it's the same way. Like, there's like a Sonic the Hedgehog RPG. There's I mean, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have gone through several iterations.
Oh, okay. In the chat, Dallas, the second licensed role playing game after Star Trek Adventure Gaming, The Final
Mm,
Frontier in 1978.
Uh,
Thank you, James,
sweet.
and thank you to random person on Blue Sky who like popped that in. I was like, I know that game. I know what they're talking about. Dave ran that once. That's my voice when I talk on Blue Sky. That's how I talk.
It's a whole other Kimmy on Blue
It's
Sky.
a
It's a
whole
whole
other
other
Kimmy.
vibe.
All right, awesome. But yeah, stick around, Eric. Like, even if you don't find your niche with us, like we're a good place to get started to point you to other things. And maybe
Yeah.
we should like, or maybe I'll talk to the mods about maybe splitting it up a little bit for the TTRPG, so there's like more like flavor specific channels, so people don't feel like their brand of their favorite type of RPG is getting lost in the conversation. So think about it. Thanks for the feedback. We're happy you're here.
Great to have you, Eric.
Yep. Cool. Dave, read the next one.
I'm sorry. I got wrapped up and I was looking up the Star Trek game.
What? All right. So mailbag number 2.
No, I'm here. I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll do it. I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, dear Happy Jacks, this is an RPG success story and also an admission that I may have been a little overzealous with one of my TTRPG opinions. I played a lot of D&D in the past, but these days I'm mostly known as a big fan and proponent of rules-light, narrative-focused RPG and story games, like Powered by the Apocalypse games. And because I've been so suffused in so many little hippie indie story games, I've also gotten a bit of a reputation as someone who's regularly talking about the shortfalls of D&D, especially 5e. And while I've never intended what I've said to mean that I think D&D 5e is a bad game, I've definitely said it's not a game for me. I am now here to eat some crow. I just started playing in an in-person D&D 5e game. We are 3 sessions in and I'm having a blast. I could not in good conscience say no to the invitation. The DM of this group is my adult kid. When your kid is now a grown-up living on their own and they invite you to play a game with them, you have to say yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially when you're the one who got them into this delightfully weird hobby in the first place. The other players are their husband and 2 of their old friends that I've known since they were all in middle school. I decided to do my best to check my anti-5e prejudices at the door and just come in and have a good time. To this end, I made a relatively straightforward character, a human barbarian with a big axe. I'm trying hard to play this game as if it's a story game, saying what I want to do and asking the DM if I need to roll anything to achieve it. Fortunately, the DM is of a similar mindset of only call for a roll if failure would be interesting. I've taught them well. To this end, my character has already attempted to intimidate goblins into running away rather than attacking us, and later took 2 of those goblins captive in an attempt to make a prisoner exchange for the human the goblins had captured. That part didn't go so well, but role-playing the parlay was a delight. As a player, I'm also really leaning heavily on some of the role-playing opportunities that are hinted at in the 5e background and trinket tables. These are two things I'm finding that I really like about 5e and hadn't appreciated in the past. The background has given me hints about this character's backstory that I would not have come up with on my own. I want to be remembered for the legendary deeds I have yet to perform, and a personality trait that I am really embracing. There's no room for caution in a life lived to its fullest. And the trinket that I rolled, an alabaster mask, is now a major part of my character's personality. It's a tribal totem mask that all warriors of her clan wear into battle. What I've learned from this experience, keep an open mind about games that you might not have enjoyed in the past. Because sometimes it wasn't the game you didn't like, but the play culture of the people at the table. When your play styles align, you're going to have a good time. And it also helps when you're playing with people you love. And with that, drink. Mike from New York State.
Huzzah.
Cheers. Lovely.
Yeah. So
Lovely.
I specifically paired this story with the first email because we love you, Mike, but Mike is like very vocal in our Discord and very much about story games. And I thought that like this was a good kind of pairing of like, even though there's people who talk about story games a lot, like a lot of them are playing D&D and are playing more traditional stuff or enjoy themselves when they do. So I think it's important to know that the most common topic of conversation is not the only acceptable topic of conversation in the Discord. And I think that is so cute. I hear all these stories about people gaming with their kids, and like I'm trying not to get my hopes up because I know how children are. And it's like, if I'm a gamer and I love gaming, like my daughter's going to be like, that's not cool. I don't ever want to do that. That's also her accurate voice. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I just like, I would love that someday. And I hope someday I get to experience a story like this for myself of Laurelyn running some sort of wild story for us.
You could be like me and have your son end up making close friends with the kid of a guy that owns the friendly local gaming store. And
That'd be so
completely
cool.
independent of me is now going up there every week to play a Pokemon themed D&D game.
Amazing.
So yeah.
So great. I mean, look, system popularity aside, let's just applaud the fact that your kids are into a very cool creative hobby and they want you to be a part of it. You've done something right, Mike. I mean, honestly, kudos. And Dave. And I mean, come on, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really love this email because it is such a, I think it does to me speak to, um, like the question of play culture and the conversations around that, and the highs and lows of the different communities you find, and the people who are very adamant about rules and sticking to the way the rules are written, and people who like to do home brews, and then there's a lot of communities that are really influenced by the social media influencers, right? They see these big games out there, big actual plays, and they are trying to emulate that, and they demand that people are on the same level as they are, and it creates a very mixed bag of expectations, right? Um, the more I play, the more I find that I am very system agnostic. That I can't I do you know what it is? It's like I'm a very agreeable and gullible type of person, where if somebody tells me that something is really great and they're really enthusiastic about it, not only will I want to support their enthusiasm, I'll suddenly find myself being like, you're so right. You're so right. I got to do this. Like, I like to support people's, excitement. So like, even if I've had things negative to say about D&D before, somebody could put a game in front of me and suddenly I'm having the best time ever. Because to me, the system isn't the thing that defines how I'm gonna have fun, but it is such a big thing to think about. Like what are the expectations, and because you're right. Like uh, Kimmy, I'm wishing you all the best, and I hope that your daughter ends up being the biggest fan of TTRPGs. I will say that I have two really quick anecdotes about TTRPGs being both successful and not successful with my nephews, my youngins in my life.
Okay.
But I had like a game with my sister and all of her kids. And just honestly, the dynamics of having my sister there, who was like, why would I do that? Why would anybody do that? And I'm like, it's yes and just go with it, like, and then suddenly the brothers were all fighting with each other because they're like, what, that's stupid, why would you even do that's such a dumb, and I was like, oh, I've blown this, I had an opportunity, I've absolutely ruined it. And then I had a kind of the inverse of that, because I think the older kids, because my sister has three, it was my sister and her ex's kids as well, so it's like a big group of just kids there.
Mhm.
But then the inverse was the youngest of my sister's kids seeing the older siblings bicker, was then like, oh, I still want to do this because this will be something fun for me and my uncle. And then I designed a D&D hack for my nephew called Lamina, which is, if you're clever, and you realize it's animal spelled backwards, and it
I
was all about animals with
I
fantasy
didn't
powers.
figure that out. I'm not
And
clever.
I created a whole PDF thing in PowerPoint, and it was
Wow.
great. And he was a huge fan. So it was like, it's really cute. Anyways, that's all to say. This is, 5e D&D, whatever. It gets a lot of gruff, but it gets people to the table. And then after that, the world's your oyster.
Mhm.
You design what that experience is at the table. And it might be vastly different from what somebody else's experience might be. And so kudos to Mike for being for having done it well as a parent, because clearly your kid's very cool.
I know, right? Like, I just like the goal of wanting your kid to hang out with you. Like I took my mom on a trip. I'm over 40 now. Um, that's hard to say because like I was in my 20s when we started this podcast. I just thought about that. Okay, anyway, back to the topic at hand. Um, I took my mom on like a bucket list thing to Rome because that was like one of her things, and she's getting to an age where she had to do it soon or wasn't going to do it. So I took her on a trip, and we went there for a week, just she and I, which is also, and I just, even as an adult, you kind of forget how much your parents want to spend time with you. And I see my mom a lot. Like she lives like less than an hour away. We see each other all the time. She's at my house literally every other week, at least for many days. But it was just like this interesting thing where she loved seeing Rome, but she like her last day when we were getting ready, she's like, I've loved seeing this place. I've always wanted to be, but the best part of this was just spending so much time with you. Just like, and I like it tears up, and then like I know it's like a weird like side journey, but like having a kid, especially like an adult kid who wants to spend time with you, it just is so cool and meaningful. And I really hope that I do a good enough job parenting my child that she someday wants to hang out with me. She's only 4, so I have a long time to do well or screw up, so it'll be fine.
Ah, it's amazing. So sweet.
Yeah, it's just great, and it's very cool. And yeah,
Mm.
Mike, that's great. Would you raise a toast to you, my friend?
Cheers, Mike.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. May we all have kids who like us enough to game with us.
Oh, ugh.
All right. Mailbag number 3. So this is now my turn to read now that I'm a little choked up. It's fine. From the archive 2017. Hi, Happy Jackers. As the Swedes have now been so present in your show lately, here's an email from Finland for a change. There's a debate if Finland is part of Scandinavia, but we take a part of all the leading TTRPG countries' glory, and that is headed towards the correct term, Nordic countries. After a long hiatus in role-playing, I have now activated in gaming again. Because of my life and family, it has been one-shots at conventions and online gaming. In my youth, my group's main game was RuneQuest, and what we used to explore the room of Glorantha. And here, explore meant heavy combat-oriented adventures. This background led me a couple of years back to HeroQuest system, not the board game. And I love the system. It takes all the crunchy stuff away and lets the GM and the players concentrate on the story. As the system, for some reason, is still in a niche, I have found myself mostly GMing instead of playing it. Okay, there are other systems like this available, PPTA Fate, I think. But this hit me not least with the default setting being Glorantha. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's the
Yeah.
stock setting. Okay. After the free advertisement for Chaosium, I get to my actual topic. In HeroQuest and others too, all the contests are resolved so that the outcomes is success or default in varying levels: complete, major, minor, marginal. These correspond with yes and yes but. Now, it's correctly punctuated, but that's a weird sentence. Now, when the resolution of the contest is ready, the good old way is that the GM narrates what happens to the character, and the players listen in awe. As the GM, I really would like to hear what the player had in mind about the outcome and be entertained with the unexpected outcomes. As a player, I really would like to narrate myself what happens to my character, especially in HeroQuest, for example, when combat can be resolved with with a roll of 2 dice. This leaves lots of room for interpretation and narration. What's your take on this? Have you let players narrate outcomes of contests, and how did it go? Did you lose the control of the story with this? Do's and don'ts. Thanks for the great show. Juho from Finland. P.S. Kippists. That is cheers in Finnish. Drink. P.P.S. If this topic has already been addressed on your show in the past, you could please point me towards it so I could listen to it. I am a rather new listener and haven't listened to all the past episodes. That was in 2017, so hopefully you've listened, and it's fine. It's fine. All right. So yes, having we talked a little bit about this last week in a very specific situation, but I think one of the things that you will inevitably find is there's 2 types of players. Players who make it so much worse for themselves than you ever wanted them to. And then the more rare player, at least in my friend circles, who will be too easy on themselves. There's not a lot of perfect this bed is just right, this porridge is the right temperature, etc. It's definitely extremes. Dave, you were nodding emphatically.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. If you ever want your characters in your game that you're running to have just a really bad time, ask the players what went wrong when they fail a roll.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that some people have come up with has been wild. But I love doing it. I absolutely use that, especially for the big critical moment fails, right? What went wrong? What how do you think that went? You were trying to shoot that guy on this other building rooftop. Okay, you failed. What happens?
Yeah.
And they've crazy things have come up. Oh well, my gun explodes and now I've got a wounded arm. Oh geez. Okay, all right. Well, now you're kind of out of the combat. Well, yeah, but that makes sense. Well, sure, okay, let's go with it. It can be pretty crazy, but yeah, I like doing it. I do. I like asking for input, and a lot of times I end up actually tempering the bad. Where they're "Oof, well, I failed that roll, so I tripped down the stairs and I land on the neighbor's cat, and then I fall out the window and down 6 stories, and I break both my legs." And okay, well, let's tone that down a little bit. It doesn't have to be the start of an epic sad country ballad about all the terrible things in your life. Let's okay, let's start with you fall down the stairs and you land on the neighbor's cat, and now the cat is angry at you.
And
Yeah.
I stepped on the cat.
Right.
Now my GM's mad, and that is that. I
Both my
just
legs
keep.
are broken.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, sorry. It's just the country song got me. I apologize. I stopped. Okay, go.
Yeah, so then I come back with them, and it's a negotiation. It's a discussion about things, right? It's I my first and foremost thing is any game that I play, I'm always coming at it from the angle of collaborative storytelling. I may have access to knowledge the players do not, and I may have other levers that I can pull to change things and change stuff up. But when it comes down to telling the story, we're all in this together. That's the fun for me, is seeing what wild things happen in this game that we're all playing together. So yeah, I'm totally a fan of doing that, I guess is what I'm trying to say in a long
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. 100%. I'm so with you on that, Dave. I mean, recently I feel like I've been playing. I played in a bunch of APs and then also ran a bunch of games, and so then I had the experience kind of both ways, where I've had the GM describe for me what transpires, and I found that oddly unsatisfying. Because I kind of, and maybe it is because as a GM, I'm so used to like, describing the scenes and the actions and all that stuff, and suddenly I felt like, oh, as a player, I'm like, oh, this thing I really love doing. I'm kind of like, I've been deprived of like the fun thing. And I've done this thing recently with. Yes, correct. For the listeners at home, Kimmy has donned her cowboy hat.
My
Cowboy
Stetson. My Stetson.
Stetson,
It's
pardon me,
important.
pardon
Yes.
me. Cowboy Kimmy's in the house, everybody. um, but I wanted to offer to you, Juho. Are we pronouncing that name correctly? Juho, is that right?
Uh, who knows?
Yes,
Yeah.
let's go with that. Sure. Over there in Finland, but right now I'm running an actual play for this wonderful channel called What About Bops, and it's a mouse reader system, which is an OSR system, and something I've been doing with my players, which we've kind of introduced and kind of really tested out in the last episode, was just a basic mechanic that I call "What's at stake." I asked the guy. Ooh, man, fuck! I don't have a. Where's my hat? Everybody's got a hat now.
Okay,
I
keep
didn't get the
talking.
hat memo.
Don't get distracted. Keep talking. You had a point.
Anyways, okay, listeners at home, there's multiple cowboy hats happening in the house, and I feel really left out. Anyways, I started doing this mechanic called "What's at Stake." This is how it works. All right, I basically just I described the challenge to the players. Hey, there's a mushroom zombie mole standing in front of you. It's hulking in front of you. It's belching. It's There it is. Thank you. For the viewers at home, for the listeners, I too now have a hat, a virtual hat. Yeehaw, it looks good. Thank you. Thank you. Now I don't feel left out as much. Wow. Hold on. So what was I saying? Oh, the thing is called What's at Stake. Okay. I give you the challenge. Here's a mole. It's a mushroom mole zombie. It is blocking your passageway. You're gonna have to get past it. There's a bunch of tunnels behind it. This is what we did in our recent game. And I say, what's at stake? And that's my way of asking you, if you're trying to do something right now and it gets completely fucked up, what's going to happen? So I want you to describe right now what's at stake. So, one of the players could be like, all right, if I try to sneak past this giant mushroom mole and I don't succeed on my check, the mushroom mole is going to focus on me. It's going to focus on me. It's going to take bite out of me. I'm like, great. Or somebody else might be like, if I don't make this check, I'm going to face plant and take some damage falling. So we're both like on the same page as to like what the outcome is going to be. And then we roll for it. So almost like proactively, they set the stakes for what the outcome could be, and it could be like in Dave's example, I fall down the stairs and break every single one of my bones, and I have no bones now, but at least I have a sweet cowboy hat on. I'm like, all right, let's roll for it, right? But I think the giving that agency to the players to both like set the drama is a really interesting tool that I found. That it invites everybody to do a storytelling moment. They're like, here's what's going to happen if I screw this up. And then it creates tension because everybody's like, oh fuck, I've just put a lot of chips in. I just said I'm going to break every single one of my legs and go fall down the stairs. And then you're rolling into seeing if this actually, transpires. What's kind of fun about that is that it kind of invites competitive storytelling from the players without telling them that they have to outact each other. Because somebody's like, well, Dave just said he's going to fall down the stairs and break one of my legs. What can I do? Oh, I know. If I don't make this check, I'm going to fall out the window and smash into a car. And you're like, oh, and it's like people start trying to want to one up each other, but the drama of the game, the story starts to evolve because you start investing into this. What happens if things go wrong? So that's that's my pitch. You say what's at stake, have them narrate what's going to happen, and then roll to see if they succeed or if the terrible thing they described takes place.
I like that. I like that you did it before because it also gives you a chance to kind of like pull it back a little bit or like, before there's like the roll, and then you have that climactic moment, and then you spend, and then you kind of like ruin that climactic moment by like negotiating how bad it is. I like that you do like the negotiation up front, so then when you roll, you have that cool moment, and it doesn't get like messed up at all.
And it's kind of like the moment's about them. You know what I mean? They've already laid out how things are going to get screwed up, and then they make the roll and they screw it up, and then it's like, oh shit! And everybody at the table knows how bad it's going to be, and it right away like ups the ante because everybody's like, oh fuck, we're like in this next phase of the game. Somebody's broken all their legs, and so that's kind of exciting that then it doesn't fall on me to like take the spotlight away from them and describe to them what happens to them, but they've taken care of that. So that's my little suggestion. Do it before the roll to get
I love
everybody
I dig it.
real
Yeah.
spicy.
Yeah, that's great. I'm still in that for sure. Brilliant. So yeah, I guess our a little bit late advice, although this email was read many years ago, but our updated advice for your 2017 query is yes, do it, and also steal Artem's great idea about doing it before they roll.
Go for it. Steal from me. I'm happy.
Happy Jacks, except for Artem. It's fine. I don't know. I don't know. I'm tired. It's fine.
Ooh, they said the title.
They did.
This is a random tangent, but one of my friends is really upset that in the movie There Will Be Blood, nobody at any point says there will be blood, and we're just annoyed. But it's based on an Upton Sinclair novel called Oil, and nobody shouts oil at any point, but there is a lot of oil.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Is that a writing rule that at some point in the movie someone has to shout out the title awkwardly?
I just find it really funny. Like in What About Bob's actual play, I'm biding the time when somebody actually says What About Bob's.
It'll happen eventually.
This is a teaser.
Yeah. You know that both that Bill and Terry are both like waiting for it, and it's probably just going to be Joey at some time who like in his moment is like, "Oh, this is a good moment to say," and they're both going to be like, "Dang it. I was planning a thing."
Well, the heat is on. There you go.
Yeah,
Who's
absolutely.
gonna say it first?
All right. Are we wrapped? Are we done? I think we did it. All right.
Yay.
Lovely.
Woohoo! Thank you for joining us for season 34, episode 24 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. Please support our amazing indie designer of the month, Megan Dawson Jaffe from Nerdy City Games. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, especially for all the extra Dallas information tonight, right on there with the searching. Thank you. We appreciate it. And to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. If you want to join their amazing ranks, you can go to happyjacks.org/Patreon. Super exciting news. We have started very slowly recording Nerding Out episodes again. So Kai and Joey just did one about the Jedi Order. So those will start to be released for Patreons at certain levels again. So we're going to try and get better about it. I'm trying to have somebody else help me with organizing those, but we're trying to make it happen. So exciting news, Patreons. My name is Kimmy. You can find me at goldenlassogames.com, at happyjacks.org, like all the Happy Jack stuff. And I'm at Golden Lasso Girl pretty much everywhere on the internet. So check me out on Blue Sky. I'm there now, and that's where I'm spending most of my social media time.
I am Artem. You can find me on Instagram at Artem Directly. Like you can find Artem directly on Instagram. Artem Directly. I'm excited to share a couple of things. One, speaking of these nerding out episodes, I'm going to do one about Stranger Things at some point, which I'm very excited about because I feel like I have a very unique perspective on it because I was born in the Soviet Union, and so it's really cool to see all the Cold War stuff that gets factored into it.
Interesting.
Plus, I love American pop culture, so it's I have a lot of feelings about this show. It's great. Also, I'm currently running a Mouse Ritter actual play on this wonderful Happy Jacks network. The show's called What About Bob's? It's running on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, and I hope you guys tune in. We've got a fantastic cast. Joey Nesja, Kai Kogawa, we've got Terry Gamble, we've got Bill Roper. Gorgeous, fantastic cast. We're having a blast. And the next show is going to be on Tuesday, January 7th. So hope you guys tune in. Also, I have a podcast all about scary movies and sandwiches called Scary Movie and a Sandwich. It's hard-hitting stuff, folks.
Do you scream out the title at any point during the podcast?
Yeah, like all the time.
Okay. Good.
It's just screaming. It's just screaming titles and names of sandwiches.
Okay, just-
But it's on YouTube. It's a podcast. Me and a guest. We share a sandwich and we talk about how it pairs with a unique horror movie, and it's a wonderful, wonderful good time. Oh, Kimmy, you inspired me. I too am going to run something for Game Days on January 11th. In fact, I'm going to do a one shot set in the What About Bob's universe. So if you wanted to visit the Mountains of Teeth where the Maxes live, it's going to be a little one shot in the town of Maxes, where Maxine and Maxime are the two leaders vying for power who are pitting people against each other in gladiatorial arenas. And if you think this is ripped off from Gladiator 2 at all, you might be 100% correct. You're onto something. So if you ever want to experience Gladiator 2, but with mice, I'll be running a one-shot that is just for you on January 11th.
Super unimportant side note, the people in Rome are super pissed about Gladiator 2, and they will shit on it at every single opportunity, no matter where you are in the city. It's like, I'll have the gnocchi, and they'll be like, Gladiator 2 is terrible. I was like, okay, cool, thank you.
Wow.
I love that it's something that's brought everybody together in Rome.
It's
Finally,
super
they have a
strong.
common enemy.
They're just like, sharks? Really? Sharks? That makes no sense. How would they even get here?
So fun.
Sorry. I derailed,
That's
babe.
all I got. So Artem directly, that's me. Find me on Instagram. I've had a blast. Thank you all.
And I'm Kadave. You will find me here on the Happy Jacks Network sporadically right now, but I'm sure I'll be back into a regular actual play sooner rather than later, whether I'm running it or not, because I have like 5 things I want to run. But besides that, you could find me usually Tuesday nights. That I'll be trying to schedule myself just before Mouse Ritter starts, so that then we can run over. If you want to watch me play random video games, currently Space Trucker is the game of choice, where I will wear different trucker hats every week. And then we will see if we can ever make a profit, or if I'll just continue to crash into small asteroids and wreck the truck over and over again. Who knows? It's a wild place out there.
So you're saying
But,
you want trucker hats for Christmas?
I mean, I have a significant amount of trucker hats. It's gotten to the point now where I start to get the side eye and the sigh whenever we're somewhere with the family and my wife sees me buying another hat.
Is a trucker hat required for joining the stream to watch?
No. I mean, I would encourage you to participate and cosplay as we go, because I think that would be delightful. But and I'd love to hear in chat about anybody who has a cool trucker hat or a story behind a cool hat. That's what I try and do. I talk about, because they're all hats from all places that I've actually been. That's the rule. So I as I pick up hats and I talk about when I visited this place and what was there and that kind of stuff. It's just a fun tradition I have. Yeah. But cool. And then I'm crossing my fingers. I think January 11th sounds like a good day to me. So I will see what I'm going to finally make one of the game days.
I know. We're excited.
It'll be exciting.
Yeah. I'm trying to get as many people from the actual hosts to participate as possible, since it's actually like not right in the smack dab in the middle of a super busy time. So, all right. Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, today we are going to leave you with a song. We're going to leave you with a song called Longer Than Life, which is by the world famous Poxy Boggards. You can find them at poxyboggards.com. And yeah, we will see you for the last episode of season 34 next week. All right. Happy holidays, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
I'd rather have longer than life. I'll take a strong stout over strife. I'd prefer to confer with a half pint of ale than live a long life till my private parts fail. For life without liquor is to no avail. So bring me lager for life.
I'd rather have whiskey than wealth, for riches bring thieves of great stealth. The wealthy drink wine and on pheasant they dine. But give me a keg and a fine turkey leg, and I'll eat, drink, and toast to your health.
I'd rather have lager than rye. I'll take a strong stout over strife. I'd prefer to confer with a half pint of ale than live a long life till my private parts fail. For life without liquor is to no avail, so bring me lager for life.
I'd rather have beer than have fame, for drinking's a much safer game. Though bravery's a virtue that warfare can urge you, let other men fight while I drink every night and gain a less sober acclaim.
I'd rather have lager than rye. I'll take a strong stout over strife. I'd prefer to confer with a half pint of ale than live a long life till my private parts fail. For life without liquor is to no avail, so bring me lager for life.
I'll take good ale over girls. They titter and play with their curls. Young women complain and cause me great pain, but with ale as my mate, I'll thank God for my fate while I give her a necklace of pearls.
I'd rather have lager than rye. I'll take a strong stout over strife. I'd prefer to confer with a half pint of ale than live a long life till my private parts fail. For life without liquor is to no avail, so bring me lager for life. I'd rather have lager than rye. I'll take a strong stout over strife. I'd prefer to confer with a half pint of ale than live a long life till my private parts fail. For life without liquor is to no avail, so bring me lager for life. I'd rather have lager than rye. I'll take a strong stout over strife.